celebrating the great acts of our salvation until next Sunday, which will be the Sunday of Easter. And because of what is ahead of us, I have no intention of saying much. Because why we have this early Mass is so that we can join the rest of the Kenyatta University community and indeed the whole country in celebrating the life of the 11 comrades who passed on the road accident last Monday. Three things that may serve to help us as we enter into Holy Week. That when we bless the palms outside there, we say that that is a remembrance of Jesus entering triumphantly into Jerusalem. Jerusalem, the holy city, the city where Jesus was entering so that he could fulfill why he was sent and why he accepted to be born a human being like us. Whom shall I send? And Jesus Christ answered, send. And the reason for him being sent and accepting was solely for the crucifixion, the death and resurrection, that we may celebrate the Paschal mysteries that we say every time at Mass. Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ is coming. Our brothers and sisters, the recalling of Jesus entering to Jerusalem would have no meaning if we don't find a Jerusalem in our hearts. We have to have that Jerusalem in our heart and ask ourselves that we enter into that Jerusalem, that place where we say at the beginning of Lent, that when we want to pray, we enter into that inner chamber in our lives, our hearts, and pray. And therefore today, let us also make that journey. It is a long journey into our hearts, and ask, how are we going to receive Jesus in our hearts? And one of the ways is to make sure that in these few last days that are remaining, we increase our prayer. We continue our fast. We prepare to give alms. And above all, we do penance and look for opportunity for confession. Let us enter into our hearts. The second point this morning is that the reason why Jesus Christ was sent to this world is because our first parents, Adam and Eve, did something that changed the narrative of why God created us. God created us to share in his own life, to share in his own goodness. But our first parents, Adam and Eve, disobeyed. And the disobedience of Adam and Eve brought us into a different mode that was not the original mode what God wanted for us. And therefore, to return us or to come back to what we call in our modern time, to factory setting, where we have to be where God wanted us to be, the disobedience of Adam and Eve had to be changed so that there will be obedience. And how was this going to be? It was only going to happen through the obedience of his Son, Jesus Christ. The first he tells us he walked through his suffering without complaining. The second he tells us from the letter of St. Paul to the Philippians how he went into this world in obedience, even to die and to die on the cross. Therefore, we are all called to embrace that obedience of Jesus. This is what changed the narrative. This is what now brought us back, so to say, to the factory setting, so that again God has welcomed us and embraced us. Just when the prodigal son was embraced by the loving Father, he was brought back to where he belonged. through the obedience of Jesus Christ. When we accept to follow Him and are baptized and receive the sanctifying grace through our baptism, we are able now to be in the mode of doing the will of God without disobeying, following Jesus in His own style of saying, "Here am I, Lord, send me." Number 3, it is just as we enter into the week, or Holy Week, that we are called, therefore, to be better disciples than before. And how do we do this? It is by understanding the commandments and doing what the commandment tells. It is by living the life of the sacraments. It is by making sure that we have time to meditate in this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so that we can prepare to the 3 great days that we call the Easter Triduum: Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Vigil, and Holy Saturday. So, brothers and sisters, let us ask ourselves, how are we going to partake and understand the sacraments and the commandments, not only the 10 commandments, but also the laws of the church, to be better followers of Jesus Christ. So let us enter into Jerusalem. And the Jerusalem here that I want to point is my heart. Let us be people who are going to allow God to set us, to erase everything else, that we can go back to the factory setting and be ready to receive the sanctifying grace that will help us to be saved, not only now, but in eternity. And thirdly, let us be people who are going to be better disciples. Tumsifu Yesu Kristo.
Milele na milele.